You wanted the talking, I'm talking it out.
It's all well and great to talk about. You have to go do something about it. We have an opportunity to write our own story and how we bounce back.
For the second straight game, it's win or go home for the Houston Rockets. But with this series shifting back to the Bay, where Richard, you will be on the call, what do you have your eye on in this massive Game 6?
I'm looking at the first quarter. I'm looking at the first quarter. Obviously, these games have been tight. These games have been intense. But when you kind of look at it and you look at the Golden State Warriors, if they come out, that crowd is juiced. It's 30-17. That, to me, means it's going to be hard for the Houston Rockets. You don't want to be fighting behind on the road in an elimination game versus those veterans and this crowd. That's not what you want. You want to take the crowd out of it. And I'm not saying that Houston can't battle back, but in my opinion, Houston has to punch first. They have to make Golden State have to answer. That's the one advantage. Now, you can look at the players and the individuals, but Shanae, you know this, Brian, Perk, you all know. It's not necessarily about the talent, it's about your approach to the game. There's going to be a moment where Golden State has Steph and they're going to need to hit a big three, and most of the time he does. So if you're the Houston Rockets, you have to punch first. Don't ease into this game. Don't think you have time, because the longer this series goes on, I think the more it benefits the Rockets. When you start playing every other day and you're talking about a potential Game 7 turning right back around and having to play again, that benefits the Rockets. So the Rockets have to come out and try and punch first, and that's a lot easier said than done against Steph and Draymond and Steve Kerr and Jimmy Butler. That's a lot easier said than done.
What's been done, and they're doing it. The Rockets had needs until now one of these games, not one time. We know one thing about the Rockets, defensively, that culture travels. That tenacity travels. They're going to compete defensively. They have done this since Game 1. I'm looking at Alfred Sengun and Fred VanVleet. Both guys had back-to-back great games, in my opinion, right? Who for the Warriors are going to shut their water off? Fred VanVleet is real comfortable. I'm talking about rubbing his feet together. Real comfortable in their crib right now. Sengun, what is Draymond Green going to do? I know the shooter percentages show us otherwise, but can you still guard and stay out of foul trouble? Hey, what's wrong?
Oh, that's interesting, because you're saying your eye is on Sengun, who has had big games, and VanVleet, who has had big games. But I think everyone is watching Jalen Green, because he actually spoke earlier today during shoot-around about his ups and downs, and he was pretty honest about it.
I don't think I played good at all, for real. Or, I had one game at the career, which was a pretty good game. But overall, I feel like I ain't really been myself. But, I mean, that's okay, First time experience, not going to use that as an excuse or anything, but just got to get back to being aggressive and, stop overthinking.
Well, first of all, I thought you was cutting me off for us to have a conversation up here, not to go to some Jalen Green tape. But, look, he's right.
Thank you.
He's right, Shanae. That was great. He's right. He do have to step up, along with Amon Thompson and along with Dillon Brooks. Somebody have to make shots. Somebody have to make shots outside of Fred VanVleet. Otherwise, the Golden State Warriors, they're going to walk out of there victorious.
Yeah, Wendy, what do you think is, or who do you think is the X factor in this one for the Rockets?
We just heard from him. Jalen Green is a high variance player. He's had a 38-point game in this series. He's had a 7-point game in this series. And look, maybe in an elimination game on the road, that's a tall order for a player in his first playoffs. But if you're looking for a way for the Rockets to elevate, this is the guy to do it. This has kind of defined his career so far. The contract that the Rockets gave him is a high variance contract. It's very high dollars, but for low years, because they don't know exactly what kind of player this guy's going to be night in and night out. This is a chance to establish himself as a guy who can be a difference maker. And look, you get Game 7 back at home court, everything changes. I think it was a calculated gamble by the Warriors to sort of punt on Game 5, planning to get it done tonight. You can short-circuit that, but you need something special to happen, and Jalen Green's a guy who can deliver a game like that.
Yeah, Wendy, we will see if that pays off. Now, Richard, we miss you here, but before you go, we know you are the standard for fashion. It's time for Tunnel Walk, brought to you by JCPenney. We want to get your grades of these looks. We'll take a look at the top 3 tunnels.
Pass on.
Greg Pop Popovich will forever go down as one of the best to ever do it. So let's check out the top of the top, brought to you by Nintendo Switch 2, Pop's best moments. Starting December 14th, 96, Greg Popovich captured his first win as head coach for the San Antonio Spurs in a thriller versus the Mavs. Perk, I mean, you remember this moment with Avery Johnson?
I don't remember it, but let me say this. When you make top of the top as a head coach, damn it, you did some stuff.
The ultimate flex. Up next is the 99 NBA Finals. Pop and the Spurs eliminated the Knicks in 5 games to win their first NBA championship in franchise history. Shake it. Fast forward 15 years later, emotions overwhelming Pop and the Spurs as they eliminated LeBron James and the Heatles to capture their 5th NBA title. And of course, the legend had to remind them that he had, like 5 of them things? Then 5, 1, 2, 3, 4. That was beautiful. And, of course, Popovich's national team career culminated as the head coach of the 2020 U.S. Olympic team that went on to win gold in Tokyo. Afterwards, he described the experience as the most responsibility I've ever felt. Strong words for a career as successful as he is. And in 2022, Greg Popovich passed Don Nelson as the winningest coach in the history of the NBA with 1,336 career wins, all with the Spurs, cementing his legacy, especially with his career, simply one of the best to ever hold that title. I mean, what an incredible collection of moments. For more on Coach Pop, Perk, Perk, stop it. We welcome in our brother, Richard Jefferson, who obviously played for Popovich from 09 to 12. Richard, how did Coach Pop really change the course of your own career?
Well, I want to say this, first of all, as a man, as a leader, that's who he is. That's what was so impressive about him, his approach to the game. He would get in there and we would have film sessions and he was like, yeah, we're down 1-0. That's not a problem. You know what's a problem? A problem is these individuals that are fighting for their food, these individuals that are living in war-torn countries. He had an ability to, even when you were under a tremendous amount of stress and pressure, you still felt blessed to be in the position of what you were doing. That's from like a personal side. For his teaching, for his ability to just put you in a position to be successful within the system that they were working in. That's Greg Popovich. Greg Popovich is a military man in San Antonio. The amount of things we went to, we would go to the different military hospitals. There were so many things that this man was always trying to imprint on his players. It wasn't a perspective. It wasn't a this is what you think. It goes, here's something to think about. And Greg Popovich, outside of Lute Olson, probably was the most impactful coach that I had over my 20 plus years of playing basketball.
And you bring up a really important point, Richard. Greg Popovich obviously attended Air Force and served in the Air Force, and it allowed him a perspective that made us look at us, not as players, but as people. And I will miss that, especially when it comes to press conferences. I want to welcome Brian back here because looking ahead, as Sham said earlier, Mitch Johnson will now take over as the head coach. How do you think the Spurs, Brian, are positioning themselves for the future?
Brilliantly. One of the things Greg Popovich has done as coach, not only win, but he helped establish a culture, and that culture has carried the Spurs through 3 decades and will carry the Spurs into the future. And they're in just absolutely spectacular position. This year obviously was derailed because he had his health incident, and then Victor Wembanyama went down with a blood clot. But going forward, my gosh, are they in good shape. They have all of their draft picks. They have 3 extra first-round picks. They have the last 2 rookies of the year, Victor Wembanyama and Stephon Castle. They are in great position with their salary cap sheet. And look, they've got 2 picks in this lottery coming up. They got 30% chance between their pick and the Hawks pick to jump into the top 4, where they might be able to draft another rookie of the year, whether it's Cooper Flagg or somebody else, or they could use those picks in trade, potentially to upgrade their team in the very short term. They have movable contracts. They have good developing young players elsewhere on their roster. I mean, I know he won 5 championships, but he did something even more special. He left it in a better place than where he took it over. This is no disaster situation here. Not only that, he nurtured Mitch Johnson. Over the last few years, he gave Mitch Johnson more and more responsibility, so he was